Hello everybody. I wanted to do a much more thorough review and analysis of the Taurus G3C. I did one earlier, but it was very basic. I want this one to be more thorough. So a couple of things I want you to notice about this is one is this indentation on the side. Picture like you take a ball of putty and you smush your thumb in there, and your thumb is an exact match for the form and shape of the putty. That's kind of how this feels. So when you go to grab the gun, as you lower your thumb, it's forcing your thumb to sit and then come to a stop. Like that gun is part of your thumb. It forces it to come to a stop right where your thumb should sit when you're holding the gun properly, right at the same height. So instead of just a flat grip and then you putting your thumb where you think you should, it tells your thumb where to rest. And then likewise, this indentation up here, it's a oblong indentation. That is telling your finger where to rest on the slide when you don't have it on the trigger. So like in the dark, instead of wondering if your finger is a little high, a little too low, it forces your finger to set right where it should. And the fact that it's oblong instead of just a little circle, because everyone's hand is, some are longer than shorter than the others. So however long your finger is, it's still by default setting that finger where it belongs and setting your thumb where it belongs. And another thing is I've owned a lot of guns in my days, and of all the guns I've ever owned, this has the most aggressive, deep, machined indentations on the slide. And that's important. When your hand's oily, slick, or wet, you don't want to grab the slide and then your hand actually slips instead of pulling the slide back. These are so deep and so aggressive that even with oily hands, your hand's not going to slip. It's going to grab where you grab it, and it's going to take the slide back. That's important. Everything that they've done on this gun makes it ideal for actually defense situations. You know, some guns are more for target shooting or collector's items or marksmanship or whatever. But if you're looking for strictly true defense, they've done everything right on this gun. Also, the finish is a matte black or a flat black, which means there's no shine to it. You don't want a shiny coat, a shiny finish glaring in the dark, letting the enemy know where you are at. And then the trigger is has got like what was originally the Glock trigger. If you accidentally bump the trigger from the side or it catches on something, it's not going to shoot. You got to be on the very end, and you got to press that on the very end. And on this one, some of them are real narrow and almost pointy, almost got an edge on them. This one's flat and it's very wide and it feels very comfortable. There's no play in it. There's no slop in it. The second you touch the inner trigger, there's tension, and it's even, steady tension the whole way down. The texturing on the grip I compare to a very rough grit sandpaper, which is another thing. If your hand is wet or oily, it's not going to slip all over the gun. It's just going to hold it in place. Almost like Velcro. Very aggressive texturing here. It doesn't feel bad. It doesn't hurt your hand. They did it right. The magazine release can be switched for left hand or right hand people. I'm lefty. I switched it for me left-handed. It wasn't that difficult. I did not have to pay a gunsmith to do it. I did it myself. When you're breaking down the gun, it's super easy. You don't need a tool. They used to a lot of times make guns where you needed some special little tool to help you break it down. You don't want that. You don't want to have to search for a tool that you may or not have. You literally, you hold your finger on the trigger, then you pull the slide back about a 1/4 inch, and then you push down on these 2 levers, and then it comes right off. Super easy. It's got the tip-up barrel. So as the bullet's feeding, you know, it helps it feed up the ramp better when the barrel tips up. In the very top, there's a hole drilled in the top. If you want to know if you got a round in the chamber, you look down in that hole, and if you see the shiny brass in that hole, that means there's a bullet in the chamber. So you don't have to pull it part of the way back to see if there's a bullet in the chamber. It's a very long pull, about medium difficulty. You don't want a super easy pull on a gun like this, where if you got a slight bit of tension on your brain, you accidentally squeeze the trigger when you're barely trying to. You want it to have a little bit of force to it, so which it does. It's a nice even trigger. It's got the grooves, to attach lasers, flashlight, or whatever you need to attach. The sights are just a standard. It's a dot in the front, and then in the back, a lot of times it's usually 2 dots, and there's nothing, which I don't really prefer, but it's still not bad. It don't work. I mean, it works just fine. So you just line up the 1 dot into your square groove in the back, and you're good to go right there. I was trying to think if there was anything else about the gun. Yeah, those are the main things. Oh yeah, the other thing I forgot is this. On the magazine, there's an indentation that's halfway on the mag and halfway on the frame. It's kind of a dip instead of flat. What that does is, if the mag is having a little trouble being released, instead of grabbing a flat, smooth surface and trying to pull the mag out, having that dip in there gives you a little bit more something to grab on with your thumb aggressively to pull the mag out, if it was catching a little bit. So, and the mag comes out, it just launches out. Like, it don't just kind of come out. As soon as you push that button, it launches it right out. Like it's nothing. But yeah, that's my review of the Taurus G3C. I owned the G2C before, and the G3C is noticeably upgraded on the improvements they made. What I would recommend, possibly, if you really like the gun and it's your main gun, I would replace the guide spring rod that's plastic with a metal one, and then the sleeve that the striker pin runs on is plastic on here. They make a stainless one. I would replace that too, and then with those 2 upgrades, you got a quality gun. Average price for this gun is around the $250 to $270 range. If you're paying $300, you're paying too much. You need to go somewhere else. This is Eagle Owl. Thanks for watching.